The sound.
The sound of the county. And all the music you love. BBC Radio Somerset.
It's Charlie Taylor with you through until 10 tonight on Connected. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's a Thursday night. It's our last show of the week. Very pleased to say that we're joined by Josh Dury, who is an astronomer from the Mendips. Josh, it is lovely to have you here on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for having me, and hello to all of your listeners.
Well, it is great. Always love chatting to you, Josh, because I always learn something. It's not hard with me, I think. So let's talk about, before we come on, I know you've got these new Zoom workshops coming up, and we want to talk about those. But first of all, the night sky at the moment, what are you looking out for in January?
Well, if the clouds begin to part, you'll be able to see some quite amazing events this month. One of them which has already passed, which was known as the triple conjunction, if that isn't enough. Basically, it's when three celestial objects appear very close in the night sky. So this was the case for Jupiter, Saturn, and the planet Mercury. So you guys may remember in the news back in December, there is a very special event called the Great Conjunction, also known as the Christmas star. So it's a similar event to the one which happened in December, but it's when three objects appear in the sky. So this is just in the moments after sundown, looking towards the southwest. And if you have that clear patch of sky, you should be able to see these three planets making up a triangle in the night sky.
That's okay. Is that one? Did you say that one's gone? Is it? So we can't see that one now.
You'll be able to see something, but it just won't be as strong as it was a couple of.
Now, I'm taking it, Josh, that the way you started that answer by saying "if the clouds part," has it been quite a frustrating start to the year so far as cloud cover goes?
Unfortunately, it has. The cloud has just continuously rolled and rolled in, and it was just coming back from Bristol today. There was just a thin layer of clear sky where I was just able to see the very thin waxing crescent moon. So that is probably the best view I've had all month.
Even I can do the moon. We don't bring you on here to tell us about the moon. I can do that one. Okay, well that's it's great that hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get some clear weather then, because that is so important. You must get very jealous, do you, of fellow astronomers in clearer climes, places which don't get quite so much cloud as we do in the west of England?
Oh, I do. There's some friends of mine out in South America, in Chile, Charlie,
Wow.
and they some amazing clear skies from the southern hemisphere, and they literally have clear skies every single day. So as soon as I see images on social media, I'm just amazed.
Yeah, that's pretty good, lucky for them. You can see how they get into astronomy there, whereas here it's a bit. I put you down in the similar category as cricket fans like me, Josh. You know, we've created a sport which relies on clear weather and good weather, and yet we're in Britain, and you know we're suckers for punishment because we end up looking at the clouds more than probably you do sometimes. So let's talk about what you've been doing through lockdown. It's been a difficult year, but astronomy is something I guess you've been able to keep up. You can easily socially distance and look at the stars, can't you?
Yes, you can, and I think within the past year, Charlie, it's become more recognised how important it is to be looking up at the night sky during lockdown, for the reasons being that the night sky actually connects all of us. So wherever you are in the world, wherever you may be, we're still able to see the same celestial objects in the night sky. So it makes it such an important element to focus on. And I found this particularly last year, and so that's why with my astronomy organisation called Space for All, which is to actively promote practical astronomy and to engage members from all backgrounds to teach the basics of astronomy through virtual astronomy workshops, and to encourage more of us to be looking at the skies during lockdown, and hopefully, if the restrictions ease in hopefully a not too distant future, being able to lead a series of practical stargazing workshops.
I think that sounds like such a great idea, because it's that connection with people, isn't it, we've been missing out on. I'm sure the astronomy and astronomers have been having great time watching the stars, but actually maybe not having those connections that they normally do with people. Do you use social media much? Are you able to connect with others around the world? You mentioned Chile already, but are there other places that you're able to connect with?
Yeah, definitely. I think the best example was I chatted to Claire last month about the total solar eclipse,
Oh yeah.
and it was just so amazing to connect with people from all around the world to witness this one celestial event happening in a particular geography around the globe. So yeah, in terms of connecting with one another, astronomy has certainly been a highlight for keeping connected during this weird, unprecedented time.
It certainly is weird. Okay, so for people who are interested then, want to find out a bit more about these, firstly, what will they look like? How might a session go, or what do people need to do? And secondly, how do they find you?
Okay, so the way I'm currently doing it is through online virtual workshops. So it'll be hands on, and you'll be able to witness the night sky from the comfort of your own home. And so, weather permitting, I'm hoping to connect low light cameras to Zoom, where I'll be able to show you virtually on how to observe things like the constellations of the night sky, the planets, deep sky objects, the moon, and so on. And so, guys, if you're listening in now, if you'd like to find out more about these workshops, please make sure to check out my website, which is www.joshjuryphotomedia.com. Otherwise, please contact me on my social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Josh Jury Photomedia.
Great stuff. Well, I look forward to finding out a bit more. I've got a couple of questions of things you mentioned there. Deep sky objects. What are they?
Oh, these are fun. So you know things like galaxies and nebulas, the really cool like NASA images that you see in the night sky. This is basically what deep sky objects are. So they're far distant objects, some which I've seen through telescopes ranging to millions of light years from Earth. So it gets a bit mind-boggling, but honestly, just the visuals of these things, Charlie, is spectacular.
Well, the pictures I see, I don't know, are they fake colorized, or are those the actual colors? They're usually full of blues and greens and yellows and reds. Are they the real colors that it looks like if you got close enough?
I see what you're saying, yeah. So some of them are false color images purely for scientific analysis in the images, so for the image data being captured by the likes of NASA. But also you get the real color images, which is basically stacked images of various color wavelengths, which create the final image which we see.
Okay, incredible stuff. And obviously you can't see detail without a pretty good telescope on those, but can you, even if you don't own a decent telescope, can you still pick out interesting bits of stuff going on in the sky?
Oh, now's a brilliant time, Charlie, to be looking for objects, deep sky objects with the unaided eye. One of them, which I'm sure loads of your listeners will be aware of, is the constellation of Orion, so being well regarded for Orion's belt. And just below the belt of Orion is a faint fuzzy patch, and this is known as the Orion Nebula. So for those who are more interested, it's known as Messier Objects 42 and 43, and it's also known as a stellar nursery. So this is where stars are being born.
Wow.
And most people are interested in this object because of the very exciting red and pink colours that we can see, which in scientific terms are emitted from hydrogen alpha gas. So really, there's a lot of science which goes on behind the work of these images, but it's, for me, the colours I find so fascinating with deep sky astrophotography.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. So I imagine, you were fascinated by this stuff. You've been doing this for a long time. I remember we met a few years ago back at Wells and Mendip Museum when we were allowed to do meetings and events and things. Feels like a long time ago now.
Yeah, it was.
So I guess you've got a pretty good setup then. So give us an idea of some of the shots that you're most proud of with your photography. What are you photographing?
Oh my goodness. So at the moment, my work's mainly tailored towards nightscape astrophotography. So this is images of landscapes taken at night. So, for example, a lot of my work has been focused around the iconic landmark, which is Stonehenge, the World Heritage Site, taking some images of the Milky Way from inside of the stones with thanks to English Heritage. Whereas other images I've been taking, especially during lockdown recently, are nightscapes over my home county of Somerset, so Glastonbury Tor being an example, and being able to capture long exposure images of star trails from above the Tor. So it's been fun in ways when the lockdown was eased, being able to take images of my homeland. And yeah, that was a real good opportunity to be experimental and creative at the same time.
That sounds absolutely great. And I know you're from the Mendips area. I'm not sure I know exactly where you are on the Mendips. Josh, is it pretty good where you are?
Yeah, so I'm just on the other side of the Mendip Hills, more towards the Chew Valley. But the night sky is, it's fascinating from here when you get a good clear night. But again, it's the situation boiling down to light pollution and the impacts of artificial light at night. So as my current night sky conservation work goes, more lights are being installed which are shining above the horizontal, which is detrimental to astronomers like myself because this reduces the clarity which we can see in these amazing deep sky objects. And even more of concern in Somerset is a very good county for its wildlife population. So considering its impacts to wildlife conservation and human health implications. So there's a much larger picture to this story.
Yeah, well, obviously I realise the astronomers won't be pleased with that, but yeah, quite right. Wildlife not quite as vocal on Twitter or other social media, but absolutely important too. And you as well, I know you spent time in Bristol. You mentioned you were there today. So can you notice the big difference when you're leaving Bristol and the urban centre there to when you're arriving in somewhere as rural as the Chew Valley? Do you see a big difference in what you can take photos of or even see just with the naked eye?
Oh, it is huge, Charlie, at the moment, because it is really, like I said, to do with the impact of light shining upwards, which create this orange-like sky glow over the city of Bristol. And when coming into the Chew Valley, like even now I'm looking towards the north and I can see the sky glow. So I usually see this above the constellation of Ursa Major during the winter months, and is an issue which I'm currently raising with Bristol City Council in order to address the impacts of light pollution in light of the climate emergency, as a delegate of the International Dark Sky Association. Because not only have we now seen the impacts of the plastic crisis and climate change, but currently light pollution is not being considered in the climate crisis. And so this is what I'm trying to do to achieve change in terms of light pollution in the UK's climate capital.
It's absolutely brilliant to speak to you, Josh. It always is. As I say, I learn a lot. I'll be keeping an eye out for the Orion Nebula. Once we get a clear night, I'll be out cycling tonight. I'll keep an eye to the skies. I'm not sure we'll get it. It looks a bit cloudy to me, but I will have a look. And everything else you're doing, it's great to speak to you. Just remind us for people who want to find you online, your website and your social media channels, Josh, where do we need to go?
So the place to look is at www.joshjuryphotomedia.com, and on my social media channels for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube, it's at Josh Jury Photo Media.
Brilliant. Josh, I'm sure we'll catch up again soon and we'll talk about what's going on in the night sky and whenever we do catch up, because as we know, things change around what time of year you're doing it. Josh, great stuff, and we'll chat soon. Cheers.
And thank you for having me, Charlie.
Always a pleasure. Josh Dury there, who is an astronomer. He's only a young guy doing some great work, as you can hear, battling hard to keep light pollution down for various reasons. Always lovely to chat to Josh, friend of the show. And you can find him on social media. Fascinating guy.